What if the foundational practices you follow for your beloved dog or cat, the kibble you pour every morning, the vaccine schedule you blindly follow, are actually shortening their time with you?
It's a really provocative question, isn't it?
Hmm.
We tend to operate on autopilot. We trust the institutions, our vets.
Right.
But the source material we're diving into today, drawing heavily from the work of renowned holistic vet, Dr. Karen Becker, suggests that trust might be, well, severely misplaced.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We have a stack of sources that basically provide a blueprint for reducing chronic degenerative disease in your pet.
And to intentionally add years to their health span. This is what the experts call biologically appropriate care.
So we're going to unpack the truth about conventional pet food, pet longevity, and some pretty controversial topics like vaccines.
Exactly. You're about to get the knowledge you need to become the most informed advocate your pet could ever have.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we have to start with the raw ingredients in conventional pet food, because this fact alone is, frankly, shocking.
It's stunning. And it goes right to the heart of the supply chain. Dr. Becker, who's actually a USDA licensed meat inspector, she confirms this.
Okay.
99% of the raw ingredients in conventional pet food sold in North America are USDA inspected and failed.
Wait, 99% failed? What does that even mean, fail?
It means they were rejected for human consumption. So we're talking about raw materials that couldn't pass inspection.
For what reasons?
All sorts of reasons. Rejected grains, fruits, vegetables, and the meat byproducts can include things like abscesses, tumors, slaughterhouse waste.
So if it fails for us, it just goes into a different pile.
Exactly. It gets categorized as pet feed or livestock feed. So if the bag doesn't explicitly say human edible ingredients or human grade, you can assume the raw materials failed that inspection.
Wow. And that low-quality base must lead to other problems.
It does. Unseen dangers, specifically mycotoxins. These are highly toxic fungi, invisible, odorless, and they grow on crops when moisture's too high.
And they cause what?
Organ failure, cancers across all mammals. And while there are strict rules for human food, if a batch of grain is deemed too high in mycotoxins for humans,
It can end up in the animal food chain.
it can. That condemned feed shouldn't enter any food chain, but it happens.
And the result of all this is what we're seeing every day. The #1 cause of death for dogs is now cancer. And all these degenerative diseases, allergies, organ failure.
Yeah, they aren't dying from parvo like they used to.
Yeah.
The chronic disease crisis in pets just mirrors the explosion in humans,
Which brings us to a huge conflict of interest, right? At the educational level.
Veterinary schools, yes.
Yeah.
All 33 U.S. veterinary schools are financially sponsored by Big Kibble. We're talking Mars, Purina, Science Diet.
But hold on, lots of vets, very reputable vets, they passionately advocate for this food. Are you saying they're all just ignoring nutrition? That feels like a stretch.
That's a really important question. It's less about malice and more about, education they receive. If the primary sponsors of your university are ultra-processed food companies, what do you think the curriculum is going to emphasize?
Right. Follow the money.
Vets are taught that these ultra-processed, shelf-stable foods are the only safe, complete, and balanced diets. Nutrition training can even be an elective in some schools.
An elective, seriously.
I'm serious. So many new doctors graduate without adequate knowledge of fresh diets. That's why they advocate for processed foods from birth until death, even as disease rates just keep climbing.
So it really is on us, the owners, to get educated. Let's look at the flip side of this. What does exceptional longevity look like? This brings us to the story of Bobby.
Bobby the Portuguese dog. An amazing case study. He was reported to have lived to 30 or 31 years old.
I heard Guinness retracted the record, though.
They did. There were some confirmation hurdles with paperwork. But his local vet and all his neighbors confirmed his age. So as a case study in nurture, he's invaluable.
So what was so special about his environment?
Well, for one, it was very low stress. He was born in a woodshed, lived in a rural area, and crucially, he had choice. He was often off-leash, free to wander, sniff, make his own decisions.
That agency seems really important.
It's a massive component of longevity.
Yeah.
And then there was his diet.
Let me guess. Not commercial kibble.
Never touched it. His family grew about 70% of their own organic food. Bobby ate homemade, fresh meals, including fish, almost every single day.
So he was getting those omega-3s.
Constantly.
Was he just a genetic freak of nature then?
Genetics, what they call Methuselah genes, they play a role, but a small one. The research on the world's oldest dogs suggests it's maybe 80 to 90% environment and nurture,
80 to
and
90%?
only 10 to 20% genetics.
That's incredible. It means we have so much power. We do have to mention, though, where human choices have actually damaged genetics.
Oh, absolutely. The brachycephalic breeds, the squish-faced dogs, we created them and they suffer for it. Breathing issues, heart conditions, arthritis. It makes a good diet even more critical for them.
Okay, so let's dive into what a biologically appropriate diet actually is, because this seems to be the central problem.
It is. The core issue is the carbohydrate trap. Cats are obligate carnivores. Dogs are scavenging carnivores. Neither of them requires a diet high in carbohydrates.
They just need fiber, right, for gut function.
Exactly. Their diet should be centered on clean protein and fats. But kibble is often 50, 60, even 70% carbs.
Why?
Corn, wheat, rice. They're cheap fillers, driven by subsidized crops. And that leads directly to the pet obesity epidemic. Over 60% of dogs and cats in the U.S. are overweight.
They're eating food they just weren't designed to process.
That's it in a nutshell.
So if someone listening wants to switch to fresh food, it can feel really overwhelming. I mean, the time, the expense, are there middle ground options?
That's a very practical point. And yes, you can start with fresh food toppers, a little bit of cooked chicken and eggs, some vegetables mixed in. But if you go for a full homemade diet, the biggest warning is this: do not guess.
Why not? If they're eating real food, isn't that better?
It's so dangerous to guess because it's really hard to meet all their essential micronutrient needs. Any homemade diet has to be nutritionally complete and balanced, formulated to meet AFCO minimums. The
AFC.
Association of American Feed Control Officials. They set the standards. You have to follow a vetted, complete recipe, or you risk serious deficiencies over time. It can't just be what your pet likes to eat.
Okay, that's a really important warning. Now let's talk about something that's totally unbalanced in kibble. The omega ratio. What does that 20-to-1 ratio mean?
It means the food is hyperinflammatory. Commercial foods use a ton of inflammatory omega-6 seed oils like soybean or corn oil. They're cheap.
And they're missing the good stuff.
Drastically lacking the anti-inflammatory long-chain omega-3, so DHA and EPA. You get those from marine sources. So the average kibble has a ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 of about 20-to-1.
And the ideal is
Closer to 3-to-1.
that difference is driving so many immune issues. So the fix is what? Supplement.
Yep. Supplement with clean, tested marine oils like squid, krill, or salmon oil, or even just adding sardines packed in water. It's a simple, powerful fix.
And when you're buying commercial food, you say demand transparency.
Absolutely. Ask the manufacturer for a complete nutritional analysis. It should list over 25 specific nutrients. If a company tells you that's proprietary, that is a huge red flag.
A good company would be proud to share that.
Exactly.
Okay. And there's a trick to find the hidden carb content on the bag, right? Because they don't have to list it.
Right. But you can calculate it. Simple math. You look at the guaranteed analysis box on the bag.
Okay.
You'll see percentages for crude protein, crude fat, crude fiber, and moisture.
Step 1. Add those 4 numbers together.
Perfect. Step 2. Subtract that total from 100. The number you're left with is the approximate carb content, the filler, the sugar.
Okay, let me try an example. If it's, say, 25% protein, 15% fat, 5% fiber, and 10% moisture, that's 55%.
Right.
So I do 100 minus 55. That's 45%. 45% of the bag is carbs.
You got it. And you want that number to be as low as you can get it, ideally under 20%. It's simple math that reveals the marketing spin.
Okay, so we've fixed the food, but there's still the environment. Let's talk about the invisible threats in our homes.
This is so critical, especially for cats. They're what we call a sentinel species for chemical exposure.
What does that mean?
Because they're always lying on surfaces and grooming themselves, their chemical levels, from flame retardants in furniture, off-gassing, cleaning products, can be 2 to 3 times higher than ours.
That is disturbing. So the tip here is to switch to organic or DIY cleaners.
Precisely. And if you can't replace a couch, for example, cover it with an organic blanket and wash that blanket often. You're reducing their exposure.
And what about water and their bowls?
If you filter your own water, filter your pet's water. Get rid of the chlorine, the fluoride, all of it. And please ditch all plastic dishes. They leach chemicals.
Stainless steel or glass is better?
Much better.
Okay, let's move inside the body. Gut health. What does mucus in your pet's poop tell you?
Mucus is the colon's lubricant, so if you see a thick coating, it means the stool is too dry or hard. The gut is basically screaming for more fiber that's trying to push something difficult through.
And the easiest fiber sources are?
Canned pumpkin is great. Just make sure it's 100% pumpkin, not the pie filling, or even some cooked and pureed zucchini or squash. A little pinch of psyllium husk also works wonders for both diarrhea and constipation.
Let's talk about eating schedules. You recommend something called time-restricted feeding.
Yes, intermittent fasting, basically. Dogs and cats in the wild didn't eat 3 square meals a day. They hunted, ate, and then their bodies rested.
So we should create an eating window.
Exactly. Maybe an 8-hour window for dogs, 10 for cats. This allows their bodies to rest, repair, and enter a state called autophagy.
Autophagy? What is that?
Think of it as the body's self-cleaning program. It's when cells recycle damaged components, clean up potentially cancerous cells, and detoxify. It's crucial cellular housekeeping, but it can only happen when the digestive system is at rest.
That makes so much sense. Okay, final big pillar, minimizing toxic medical inputs. The vaccination paradox. Is the pet schedule as compromised as the human one?
In some ways, yes, for a couple of fundamental reasons. First is dosing.
Right, you mentioned this before.
A tiny 2.5-pound Yorkie gets the exact same vaccine dose as a massive 220-pound Mastiff. There's no titration for size.
That's just wild. And the second issue?
Unnecessary boosters. Vaccines for viruses like parvo and distemper establish lifelong immunity after the puppy shots.
Lifelong, so you don't need a booster every year.
You don't. Boosting an already protected system doesn't increase immunity. It only increases the risk of an adverse reaction.
So how do you check for protection without just giving another shot?
You use a blood titer test. It's a simple test that measures the antibody levels already in your pet's blood. If the protection is there, you can safely skip the vaccine.
What if a vet resists running a titer test?
That's where you have to be an advocate.
Yeah.
You educate yourself, you present the science respectfully, you have the right to decline any medical procedure. And if your vet just won't listen, it might be time to find one who's open to a more modern, customized approach.
And what about bacterial vaccines, like for Lyme?
They're different. They aren't protective for life. They have higher side effects, and they don't even guarantee prevention. They just minimize bacterial shedding if the animal gets exposed.
So prevention for things like fleas, ticks, heartworm, it shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all year-round chemical assault.
Absolutely not. An indoor dog in Arizona has a totally different risk profile than a dog hiking every day in New England. In high-risk areas, you can use a test like a 4DX twice a year to screen for exposure instead of just constant pesticides.
Okay, 2 quick-fire issues before we wrap. That Frito feet smell, what is that?
That's yeast, a yeast overgrowth. And yeast thrive on sugar and carbs. So you cut the high-starch diet, get those carbs below 20%, and you starve the yeast.
And don't use oatmeal shampoo.
Right. Oatmeal's a carb. You're just feeding the yeast on the skin.
And lastly, alternatives to early spay and neuter.
Spaying or neutering before puberty can induce endocrine damage in dogs. We know now that removing those hormone-secreting tissues too soon is bad for bone development and joint health.
So what are the modern hormone-sparing surgeries?
They're actually simply procedures. For females, a hysterectomy, where only the uterus is removed. For males, a vasectomy. The animal is sterile, but their endocrine system is left intact.
The big picture here seems to be that the quality of your pet's life is, well, it's truly in your hands.
It is. You have this incredible power to influence their health span and longevity through these informed choices about diet, their environment, their medical care.
Your job is to become their advocate.
Their best advocate. The goal is to minimize regret. To be able to say, I did the best I could with the most current knowledge I have.
Which leads us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. We've established that the health crises in humans and our pets, they mirror each other. They're fueled by processed food and environmental toxins. So if making better choices for your pet, like buying fresh food or switching to non-toxic cleaners, requires less personal willpower than making those same choices for yourself, could prioritizing your pet's longevity be the catalyst that finally forces you to adopt a healthier lifestyle for your entire human family?